There are 17 college football games on Saturday that include AP top 25 ranked teams. And we are going to pick every single one of them on today's episode of the Daily Huddle. And we're going to finish with Ohio State, Penn State, because I think it's the game of the week. And we'll talk about that coming up. First, UCLA on the road at Stanford. Sneaky game because Stanford riding high off a 29-point comeback victory over Colorado. UCLA now 4-2 on the season. Carson Steele has been a workhorse for them. I'm going to take the Bruins, but I don't feel great about it. Truthfully, I mentioned earlier in the week, Stanford, scrappy, which is nobody ever wants to be called scrappy, but they got called scrappy, and that's where they are right now. Give me UCLA, but I don't feel great about it. Staying in the Pac-12, Washington, home for Arizona State. I don't know that Washington's going to go 12-0. I think the schedule might just be too difficult because you're going to be everybody's Super Bowl the rest of the season, but I don't think it ends this week. Arizona State 1-5 on the season. Don't like their chances. Huskies, somewhat big. A really good game is Utah-USC. One, because USC is explosive offensively, and two, Utah is as good defensively as damn near anybody in America. I'm going to take the Utes 2 weeks in a row because I think they're more physical than USC. USC is going to want to come out and show the world that was just a fluke loss to Notre Dame. I don't know that it was. I think they've got legitimate problems. And even though it's at the Coliseum, I'm going to take the Utes 5-1. And we're going to talk about Utah, I think, a lot more next week after that win. They'll be 6-1 in one of the opportunities still to make the Pac-12 championship. They'll be ranked in the top 10, likely at that point. I'm going to take the Utes, and I like them pretty strongly. Also, in games that pits two ranked teams against each other, Florida State and Duke. Duke, like Utah, plays a very specific brand of football where it's defense, and we're going to spread you out, but we're not necessarily looking. It's not an air raid. It's not we're going to chuck a pigskin all over the place. It is, and I think this is a really smart way to go about it, truthfully, is I hate the term complementary football because I think it's overused, that it's just something that coaches heard somebody else say, and they're like, oh, yeah, no, that's something I'm going to start saying too. We've got to play complementary football because a lot of schools, a lot of teams, a lot of programs don't have to play complementary football. You can just be pretty good at one side of the ball, and that's that. Places like Utah and Duke have to play complementary football, and Duke plays complementary football. I still think Florida State wins, but I think it's a tight one. FSU's almost 14-point favorite. I think it's a big spread, and maybe it's an opportunity for them to showcase their talent on a national stage, broadcast nationally on ABC. Maybe that's an opportunity for them. I don't know. But I'm going to take the Seminoles, but I don't know that they cover. That's a big spread for me. LSU is at home against Army. Sorry. Tigers are a 31-point favorite. I say they cover comfortably. I think Michigan State is an interesting game because that's, speaking of cliches about complementary football, there is a cliche, when these two teams get together, you can throw the record books out. This is one of those games where that's legitimately true, where if Michigan is not 100% dialed in, because Michigan State, this is their Super Bowl for the rest of the season. Maybe if you're looking forward to them playing Penn State, and depending on what Penn State does this weekend, that could be a really big game on Black Friday. But other than that, this is it for Michigan State. Like, this is pretty much all you've got to play for the rest of the season. So if Michigan is not 100% prepared, that's a game that they could trip up on. But I think they're going to be prepared. To his credit, Jim Harbaugh has had Michigan playing to their own standards so far this year. They have not played down really to any competition just yet. They have played to their standard, and it has worked tremendously for them. So give me the Wolverines. 24 is a pretty big number because Michigan State's not great, but I'll say that Michigan handles business, and the over-under is 48. That seems like a low over-under when Michigan has been just steamrolling opponents, and Michigan State hasn't played all that well. Ole Miss is at Auburn. Rebs are 5-1. Auburn's 3-3, and they got quarterback issues. That's an easy one for me. Give me Ole Miss. North Carolina is home for Virginia. Another easy one. I think North Carolina is 6-0 and number 10 in the country just because they've got a 0 in the win-loss column. I don't know how good they are. I know that Virginia's not good. Another easy one. Texas is on the road at Houston. Number 8 ranked Texas, 5-1. It's the only time that Houston is going to get Texas at home. I don't think they capitalize. I think Texas is still one of the best teams in the country, despite losing to Oklahoma. I don't think they match up really well with the Sooners, but I still think they are really, really, really good and still have a path to the college football playoff. Give me the Longhorns big over Houston. Iowa is on 3:30. They're playing 3:30 on NBC. They're taking on Minnesota. Iowa might finish 11-1 and have to fire their offensive coordinator because they couldn't score 25 points a game. It's this statistic anomaly that they can't throw the football, and they might finish 11-1 and win the Big Ten West. I think they move to 7-1 this week with a win over Minnesota. And I don't know that they get to 25 points, but their defense is still really, really good. One spot above number 24, Iowa, is number 23, Tulane. Green Wave are 5-1. They're taking on North Texas. That's an easy win for Tulane. Staying somewhat, I guess, in the South, if you want to say that. Missouri is number 20. They've got one loss, and they're taking on South Carolina. This is a teetering game. Talked yesterday about South Carolina and Shane Beamer about how the story's really not that serious. If you haven't checked it out, please do, because college football is supposed to be fun. Calm down. South Carolina's season is on the brink. If they don't get a win at Missouri, they're 2-5, and their chances of making a bowl game are pretty much out the window. And I think that's how it goes. Give me the Tigers. It's a 7-point spread. I think Mizzou covers. Not first Saturday in October, it is Alabama, Tennessee. I'm very good friends with a couple of Alabama grads, and growing up, I didn't realize how much Alabama, Tennessee really was a rivalry. You knew that Alabama, Auburn was, that it was just kind of like in state, but Alabama and Tennessee really hate each other, or at least I don't know many Tennessee folks, but I do know a couple of Alabama folks, and they really hate Tennessee. So I assume the feeling's mutual. It's 5-1 Tennessee, 6-1 Alabama. The over-under is 48, and I don't know how they get there because neither side feels great about their quarterback play. I think their defenses are both okay. I'll take Bama at home. The spread's 9, which feels a little high. I just don't know that Tennessee has the ability to out-scheme Alabama, and I don't know that they feel all that great about Joe Milton leading them to the promised land or anything like that. So give me Bama. I don't know that it covers, however. Oregon is at home for Washington, coming off Washington State, I beg your pardon. They lost to Washington last week. Number 9 Ducks, 5-1. Washington State 4-2 on the downslide. Washington State got demolished last week by Arizona. Butt kicked. I think it's going to happen again this week. Oregon is going to be out for blood. And they didn't really drop all that much in the polls for losing to Washington. I don't think that they're going to slip up another time during the regular season. Give me the Ducks. The spread's 20. I don't know if that's enough. It's going to be nasty. Oklahoma is home for UCF. And similar to the Texas-Houston game, UCF is going to get one crack at Oklahoma. Just one chance to, because I highly doubt that game will be a non-conference game anytime soon. Sooners big, and I think they're still kind of slept on, and I think it's a similar, like, Oklahoma is ranked where they are because they're Oklahoma. They have a 0, and people don't have the berries to rank them below somebody that's got a 1 loss. But I I don't think there's still all that much respect for the Sooners right now. And I get it to a point. They're not world beaters in any phase of the game. Like, they're not elite at anything. They're pretty good at a lot of stuff. But it's UCF. It's a home game. It's a 20-point spread. I'm going to take the Sooners. Air Force plays Navy at noon on CBS. I happen to like Service Academy football. I know a lot of people don't. I like it. Air Force is 6-0. Navy is 3-3. Air Force going to be without their starting quarterback, out with an injury. This is an opportunity for Air Force to really cement itself as the team who can be the G5 representative in the New Year's Six Bowl. If you can go on national TV and win a game without your starting quarterback over a Navy squad that it's still formidable. I don't know how good Navy is. I don't think very. Air Force is a 10.5-point favorite. It's a 34.5 spread. It's like of the last 55 Service Academy games, the under has hit like 42 times or something like that. So I would take the under here, especially with Air Force being without their starting quarterback. I'm going to take the Falcons to win. I think it's going to be closer than that 10.5-point spread, but it's an opportunity for Air Force to make an impression on a national audience and say, hey, you need to talk about the Falcons as a team that can play in the New Year's Six. The only problem is that game could get a lot of traction at noon on pretty much any other Saturday. But number 3 Ohio State is hosting number 7 Penn State. And there's been a lot of talk this week in the Columbus media market and in Ohio State circles about how it's unfair that this game is at noon, that Ohio State has to ask their fans to get there early and be excited because you wouldn't have that at noon, blah, 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 or wouldn't have that at night. You wouldn't have to ask people to get loud and rowdy. I'm a firm believer, and I will die on this hill, that, first of all, Saturday at noon is prime time. There's a Fox Big Noon Kickoff has been the number 1 rated college football window for the last 2 years. And it's not because they got Michigan, Indiana in the time slot. It's because people are available on Saturday at noon to watch football. On Saturdays at 7:30, I love my wife. I adore spending time with her, but sometimes she's not into still watching football at 7:30 till 11 on Saturday nights. But at noon, I can get away with that. I realize that's anecdotal, but it's the truth. Does Ohio State, Penn State deserve to be a night game? I hate the idea that, like, this game is big, therefore it should be at night. And then the flip side of this game is a big game, therefore it should be at night, or this game is at night, therefore it's a big game. I think that's a stupid thought process. The idea that your biggest gripe about something is I can't get drunk enough before the game is stupid. Should it be a night game? Maybe, probably, if that's your theory. I don't subscribe to that theory. I think Ohio State, Penn State, when they're both 6-0, one is ranked 7th, one is ranked 3. If you played that game at 8:20 a.m., it's still a really, really big game. And if you played it at 8:20 p.m., it's still a really big game. It doesn't get bigger depending on what time the game is played. I just don't agree with that thought process. But nonetheless, the game is a big one. I don't know how much of a college football playoff eliminator the game is. Part of me thinks if Penn State is still ranked 7th at 6-0 behind an Oklahoma squad who is not getting maybe some of the credit they feel they deserve, I don't know that Penn State gets the benefit of the doubt if they lose to Ohio State. Both sides still have to play Michigan, and it's going to have an opportunity to – they're going to have an opportunity to beat Michigan and improve that resume down the line. But I don't know if Penn State loses this game that they have the same opportunity to catapult themselves back into the college football playoff conversation like Ohio State does. They just get that benefit of the doubt for being a perennial Big Ten championship contender and having the opportunity to still play Michigan and being a national title winner in the last 10 years. Like Penn State just doesn't get that benefit of the doubt. And I think they're still really good. It's going to be Ohio State's 4.5-point favorite right now. And that feels right to me. One, it's at home. Two, a little bit more experienced. Penn State has been really impressive at times this season. I'm going to take Ohio State, and I don't know what I think about the spread. I don't know if I think they cover 4.5. I think maybe they do. And Penn State, up until the last 2 years, has, under James Franklin, has played Ohio State as tough as anybody. There are a couple of 1-point losses. There's the overtime win an overtime loss, the win a few years ago after the blocked field goal that was returned for a touchdown, and Ohio State still went to the college football playoff, even though Penn State won the Big Ten. Penn State has played Ohio State as tough as anybody. James Franklin has done a really good job of getting them set and ready to play Ohio State. I just don't think they have quite enough to get over the hump. I think it's close. I think the over-under is 45.5. I think they get close to it. I think those are two really good numbers. But give me Ohio State. I don't know about the spread, and I'm not smart enough or good enough, and I don't bet my money, let alone your money. So I'm not telling you what to do gambling-wise. I'm just telling you my gut says Ohio State wins that game close. So that's the look at the top 25 games this week. We'll have our Sunday stock report and the Sunday Stiff Arm Trophy when we return. It's going to be when we return on Sunday. It's going to be a great college football weekend. Really looking forward to chatting with you about it on the old tweet machine. Tweet me at Garrett Searight and at Saturday_Glory, and we'll have that conversation all day on Saturday. Certainly appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you're watching here on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all of our great college football content being pumped out here at Saturday Glory. If you're listening on the podcast, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping us get in front of more college football fans, and that is always a good thing. We're back at it on Sunday. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to chatting with you then. That's today's episode of the Daily Huddle here on Saturday Glory.